The first thing I learned working the night shift at Marty's diner wasn't how to run the register or how to fry an egg without breaking the yolk. It was the rules, not the usual corporate stuff printed in a manual. These were handwritten on the back of a stained menu in red ink that had bled into the cardboard. I didn't believe them at first, but that was before the man in booth number 6 smiled at me with my father's face. You're listening to Murmurs and Mysteries, where the night shift starts quiet, but doesn't stay that way. If you like stories like this, I'd really appreciate a sub. Now, let's get back to today's story. The diner sat at the edge of town, past the gas station, just before the road turned to blacktop and vanished into the pine forest. Marty's was the kind of place where the coffee tasted like the pot had been in service since the 70s, and the neon sign buzzed loud enough to keep you awake even when business was dead. I got the job because my cousin Frank was quitting. Couldn't hack the hours, he said, sliding the apron across the counter. He looked pale, too pale for a guy who'd spent most of his life working kitchens. Before he left, he pressed something into my hand, a laminated menu. Only the special side was crossed out with a black marker. The rest had been replaced with uneven lines of handwriting. 1. If the outside lights flicker, turn them off immediately. Leave them off. Whatever's outside sees better in the light. 2. After midnight, the kitchen door will knock from the inside. The sound will get louder. It isn't the cook. 3. If you hear a car pull into the lot but see nothing, lock the doors until the sound stops. 4. If the jukebox plays a song you've never heard, don't listen. Cover your ears until it stops. 5. At 3:17 a.m., every clock in the diner will freeze. You must not move until they start again. 6. If a customer asks for water and never drinks it, take the glass away before it gets warm. I counted the lines. 6 rules. Is that it? I asked. Frank stared past me at the front windows, like he was making sure nothing was looking in. There's one more, he said quietly. But if I told you you'd quit before your shift even started? He didn't wait for me to press him. Just walked out into the night without another word. It was just past 11:40 when Frank left me alone in the diner. The rain had been steady all evening, but by then, it had settled into a slow, constant hiss on the roof. Out front, the parking lot was empty except for Frank's rusted pickup, disappearing into the dark. The world beyond the neon sign was nothing but wet asphalt and the long, black line of the forest. I told myself the rules were just his way of screwing with the new guy. A bit of hazing before he left for good. By midnight, I'd wiped down every counter, refilled the ketchup bottles, and stared at the clock until my eyes blurred. That's when the buzzing changed. It was subtle at first, the low hum of the neon sign breaking into sharp, uneven flickers. The light outside pulsed 3 times, quick, like someone was flipping the switch on and off. I remembered Rule 1. If the outside lights flicker, turn them off immediately. Leave them off. Whatever's outside sees better in the light. My stomach tightened. The switch was by the door, under the open sign. I walked over, trying not to look out the windows as I passed them. The rain was still falling, but now I could hear it splashing against something that wasn't pavement. A slow, wet shuffle just beyond the light's reach. Another flicker. I hit the switch. The neon buzz died. The lot outside went black, swallowing the world beyond the glass. And in that silence, I heard it clearly. A long, heavy breath pressed against the window. I didn't look up. Didn't want to see what was making it. Just backed away from the door until my calves hit the counter. The breath stayed for a few seconds more, then it was gone. I didn't hear footsteps leaving, just the rain. But for the rest of the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that the dark beyond the glass wasn't empty. The rain had started to fade into a steady hiss by 1:30 a.m., the kind of sound that makes your eyelids heavy if you let it. I was halfway through wiping the counter when I heard it. 3 sharp knocks from the kitchen. They came from the swinging door behind the grill, the one that led into the walk-in fridge and supply room. Only, there wasn't supposed to be anyone back there. Frank's second rule flashed in my head. After midnight, the kitchen door will knock from the inside. The sound will get louder. It isn't the cook. I stood still, rag in hand, listening. The knocks came again, slower this time but heavier, like someone was leaning their whole weight into them. I took a step back from the pass-through window. The air in the diner felt colder now, like the draft from the walk-in was leaking through the cracks. Then I heard something else. A low hum, mechanical and tinny, drifting in from the corner. I turned my head toward the jukebox. Its neon trim glowed faintly blue, cycling through songs I didn't recognize, titles that didn't look like words at all. The knocking kept going, syncing with the music like they were keeping time together. Another knock, another flicker from the jukebox light. I swallowed hard and edged toward the switch to cut its power. But the moment my hand touched the wall, the kitchen door shuddered, a single heavy slam that rattled the plates in their racks. Then, silence. Both the knocking and the music stopped at the same time, like they'd agreed to. I stayed behind the counter for the rest of that hour, not daring to check the kitchen. Every so often, the jukebox's neon would blink, just once, as if it was remembering me. A little after 2, the diner settled into that strange hush where the hum of the fridge sounds like a voice you can't quite make out. I was counting the sugar packets just to keep my hands busy when I heard tires hiss through water. Not far off. Close. Headlights should have swept the windows. They didn't. Rule 3 surfaced like a bad memory. If you hear a car pull into the lot, but see nothing, lock the doors until the sound stops. The bell over the entrance gave a single nervous jingle, even though the door didn't move. Outside was nothing, just the black pane of glass reflecting the counter and the empty stools. Another wet roll of tires, a brake squeal, something idled in a space that didn't exist. I forced myself toward the entrance, eyes down so I wouldn't meet whatever might be looking in. My fingers found the deadbolt and turned. The thunk echoed too loud in the empty room. The engine noise didn't leave. It settled, patient, low, like it had all night to wait. Behind me, the jukebox woke up with a breathy click. Its neon bled a cold blue onto the tiles. Song titles stuttered past that weren't quite English. Letters arranged like teeth. Don't listen. Cover your ears. I pressed my palms to the sides of my head and watched the front door in the glass. Not the outside. Never the outside. The music didn't start. Instead, the jukebox whispered a needle-soft static, the kind you feel in your molars. The engine outside revved once, cheerful as a greeting. The bell chimed again. Something leaned on the door without making a shape. Condensation bloomed on the inside of the glass where a face would have been. Oval. Breath I couldn't hear, warming a circle that shouldn't have warmed. I kept my hands over my ears and counted to 30, the way Frank had told me to breathe when the fryer flared. By 27, the static faded. By 30, the engine noise lifted away, like a slow wave pulling off the beach. Silence crept back in, except for rain and the soft throat-clearing hum of the fridge. I dropped my hands. The glass at the door was dry. No fog, no prints, just my own reflection, pale and stretched by the neon. From the jukebox corner came one last blink of blue, then darkness. I unlocked my jaw and realized I'd been clenching so hard my teeth hurt. Somewhere in the back, a clock ticked 2:15. 2 hours until the worst part of the night. The diner had that thick, stale warmth again. Not cozy warmth. The kind that makes the air heavy, like it's carrying something you can't see. I kept checking the clock above the pie display, willing the night forward. 2:59, 3:04, 3:12. I knew the next rule in my head, even if I didn't want to think about it. At 3:17 a.m., every clock in the diner will freeze. You must not move until they start again. By 3:16, I'd already decided to stand in the middle of the room, where I could see everything. The rain outside had gone from a hiss to a distant drizzle, and the silence pressed in until I could hear the hum in my own skull. The second hand crawled up to 12 and stopped. Every clock, the one above the pie case, the one by the register, the red LED on the coffee maker, frozen. The hum of the fridge cut out like someone had pulled the plug. I didn't move, not a twitch. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was crowded. Shadows seemed to stretch wrong across the linoleum, bending away from the fixtures instead of toward them. In the window glass, my reflection was still, but something stood behind it, too tall to be me. A drop of water hit the back of my neck, then another. It wasn't raining. I wanted to turn, to swipe at whatever was there, but my feet stayed locked, my hands glued at my sides. Somewhere to my left, the jukebox flickered. Not blue this time, but red, the color of a brake light caught in fog. Song titles rolled past again, and this time, I recognized one. It was my name. The second hand twitched. Once, twice. Then the hum of the fridge snapped back, the clocks jumping to 3:18 like nothing had happened. I was alone again, or at least, the room wanted me to think I was. The next customer of the night came in at 3:41. At least, I think they were a customer. They looked normal enough, soaked from the knees down like they'd been wading through something. But their hair, their coat, bone dry, and their eyes, too still, like they were holding perfectly still behind them. They slid into a booth without a word, never glancing at a menu. I forced myself to walk over. "Can I get you something?" "Water," they said, voice flat enough to scrape the air. I poured it from the tap, set the glass in front of them, and stepped back toward the counter. Rule 6 whispered in my memory. If a customer asks for water and never drinks it, take the glass away before it gets warm. 5 minutes passed. 10. The glass sat untouched, the condensation running down like sweat. In the corner, the jukebox gave a single sharp click. No lights this time, just the faint sound of a needle dragging across a record. I glanced outside. The parking lot was empty, but I swore I heard tires in the wet again. Back at the booth, the water's surface had gone perfectly still. No ripples, no shiver from the air vent above. The condensation was almost gone. I walked over, reaching for the glass. The stranger's hand shot out, resting on the rim, skin cold enough to burn. They didn't look at me, but their mouth curled into the faintest smile, the kind you'd give a child who just broke a rule. I took the glass anyway, retreating to the counter. When I turned back, the booth was empty. No footprints on the tiles, just a faint ring of moisture where the glass had been. The jukebox clicked again, like it was clearing its throat. Then silence. By 4 a.m., I'd stopped looking at the clock. I didn't want to know how much night was left. The diner smelled wrong. Not like grease or coffee, but wet soil and rust. Every breath felt like it was dragging something cold down my throat. The jukebox lit up without warning, the neon washing the floor in that cold blue again. A song title flickered across the panel. My name, just like at 3:17, and then changed to something longer, written in those teeth-shaped letters. From the kitchen came 3 slow knocks, deep enough to rattle the coffee mugs. Then the sound of something wet dragging across the linoleum. A car rolled into the lot. No headlights, no shadow through the glass, just the sound of water sloshing in unseen tires. The bell over the front door gave a sharp double chime, even though the door didn't move. In the corner booth, water pooled on the table. I hadn't poured it. I hadn't seen anyone sit there. The kitchen door knocked again, louder this time, in rhythm with the jukebox's hum. The sound syncopated with the roll of invisible tires outside, like the whole diner was playing along to something I couldn't hear. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the coffee pot. I didn't know where to look. The front door, the kitchen, the booths. The jukebox's glow shifted to red, casting long shadows across the floor. Every reflection in the glass looked wrong, stretched, hunched, their mouths moving a second out of sync with mine. Then the knocking stopped. The car noise faded. The jukebox went dark. And in the sudden silence, I heard a sound that didn't belong to any of the rules Frank had told me. A slow scrape of vinyl against vinyl, coming from booth number 6. Booth number 6 was the one by the far wall, tucked under the big front window. It had been empty all night. Now there was someone in it. They sat perfectly still, hands folded on the table. From where I stood, the overhead light caught their face just enough for me to see their mouth. It was my mother's smile. But my mother's been dead for 6 years. I froze, and in that pause, I remembered Frank's voice. There's one more rule. But if I told you, you'd quit before your shift even started. A sound came from behind me. The kitchen door knocking again. Rapid. Urgent. The jukebox lit blood red, playing that same static hum. Invisible tires squealed outside, water splashing against the glass. The figure in booth number 6 tilted their head. Their eyes didn't blink, didn't even shine. My feet carried me closer without permission, until I was standing at the end of the table. They looked like my mother, but the skin didn't sit right on the bones, like it had been pressed there, stretched just enough to fit. I heard my own voice, but I wasn't speaking. Whisper from their mouth. Ask me something. A piece of paper slid across the table toward me. Red ink. One sentence. Rule 7. If anyone sits in booth number 6, keep your eyes on them until daylight, even if they look like someone you know. The jukebox's hum deepened until it felt like it was rattling my teeth. The kitchen door slammed, over and over. The bell at the front door rang without pause, like it was being shaken by invisible hands. I couldn't move. Every instinct screamed to run, to look away, to blink. But I stared, through the smile, through the wrongness, through the hours left until the sun. I don't remember the moment daylight came, only the empty booth, the paper gone, and the neon sign buzzing back to life like nothing had happened. But the smile still burned behind my eyes, and the longer I stared at nothing, the more it shifted, becoming faces I knew,